Senator, always good to see you. What is this about?
Great to be with you, Neil. Thank you. Well, look, we think that the death tax is punitive to farmers and ranchers and small business people, family businesses and operations who want to pass it on to the next generation. The Congressional Budget Office in 2009 said that a third of the businesses who owe the death tax owe more in taxes than what their assets are worth. So what typically happens is they have to liquidate the business in order to pay the IRS. It is a tax that's inefficient, and it hurts jobs in the economy in this country, and we think it's time for it to go. And so we've got a bill that would repeal it and end the death tax once and for all.
Now, what kind of support do you have?
Well, we've had good support, obviously, among Republicans. We've been reaching out to some Democrats. There are some Democrats in the past who have expressed support for getting rid of the death tax. We hope that there'll be some bipartisan support in the Congress. Kevin Brady is introducing the bill in the House of Representatives, and we're going to hold a news conference tomorrow to talk about why it's important that Congress take the steps that are necessary to do away with this very burdensome, very punitive tax.
You know, the administration, I'm sure you're aware of this, Senator, comes out and says, I don't know what Thune is arguing about. The fact of the matter is very few pay this tax because very few really fit the criteria or the means by which to have to pay it. What do you say? I think they say it's closer to 2% of that.
Right. Well, if you look at the run-up, Neil, in land values in a state like South Dakota over the past decade, we've seen land values increase to the point now that about a third of the farms in South Dakota are actually over the exemption amount, so they would be liable to pay the tax. This is a very big issue in farm and ranch country where people are land rich and cash poor, but it also hits a lot of small businesses in this country. Douglas Holtz-Eakin did a study here recently that suggested that ending the death tax would add 1.5 million jobs to our economy. So we think it is about jobs, it is about growth, and you think about how much money people spend to avoid the tax as well. And you know, this is something that in our economy we really don't need. We want to encourage people to pass that family farm or business on to the next generation, and getting rid of the death tax would help make that possible.
As of right now, Senator, you are one of the only Republican senators presently not planning to run for president, that I know of.
Right.
So I wonder when you hear out of your colleagues this idea for simplified tax code, some of this other stuff, they seem to be very unified. If the approach is different, will that be a Republican rallying cry in 2016? Because we're a long way from anything that approaches a simpler tax code.
I agree, and it should be a rallying cry. The tax code is way too complicated. It is way too costly to comply with. If we could broaden the tax base in this country, lower the rates, I think we'd unleash a period of economic growth unlike anything we've seen in a long time. And included in that should be getting rid of the death tax. You got an administration in Washington right now that very much likes to raise taxes, take from some people, give it to others. And we just think that the best way to get growth in the economy is to get the tax rate down to the lowest level possible, to where people are making decisions based upon what's best for return as opposed to tax consequences. And so, you know, my hope would be that our candidates in 2016 are out there aggressively talking about their plans to reform the tax code, to make it more simple, more fair, to lower the rates, and focused on economic growth.